Hello, and thank you for joining us for this episode of That Solo Life, the podcast for PR pros and marketers who work for themselves. I am one of them. My name is Michelle Kane. I am Voice Matters LLC. Who am I kidding? And I'm here with Karen Swam. She is the leader of our solo PR pro pack, and we are so glad to have her. Hi, Karen. How are you today?
Hi, Michelle. I am quite honestly very exhausted, overwhelmed, and underwater. But you know what? Good.
Yeah,
I'm
we're still upright, so that's a
Yeah,
good thing. And
it,
it's got
it's been quite a month, right? For everyone, it seems.
Yeah, I don't it's been weird. Well, you have been moving, which
Yeah,
is a gargantuan thing in and of itself, while keeping your business going. I've
yeah.
been just like, I don't know, global malaise, just not taking enough breaks for myself. I've been just kind of like, ugh. And yeah, so we thought, hey, let's talk about business burnout.
Yeah. And it's funny. I didn't realize because we were actually supposed to do this topic last week and we ran into technical issues, but I did not realize that the timing of this would coincide with the way that things are going for everyone and everyone feeling
Yeah,
like they're underwater.
yeah.
I talk to reporters who say I'm always behind,
Wow.
solos or, feeling the pressure. Solos who are parents are feeling the pressure because they've got kids to deal with in
Yeah.
school and trying to run a business. And I think, in the old days, way back in the old days and the time before, summer used to be a time that actually the pace slowed a bit. Our
Yeah.
clients took vacations with their families. There were fewer conferences in the summer. And it was just, we still had work for most of us. I guess some
Right.
industries heat up in the summer, but for most of us, it
Mm.
really was a time where we could just kind of go, we could work shortened days. We could work
Yeah.
at just a saner pace.
Yeah.
That has not happened this year. It feels like something happened after the 4th of July where
Yeah.
this feels like the race to the finish that
Yeah.
we usually see at the end of the year. And I don't know about anybody else, but it's really throwing me off
Mm.
because I'm behind. I'm so behind on everything. And I know
Yeah.
that I'm not alone.
No, you're not, and I've kind of been playing this head game with myself of because I think it takes a certain personality to do what we do in the way that we
Yeah.
do it, right?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, "Ugh," as I shift things from one day to the next on my Google Calendar, I'm like, "Oh, I'm a failure. I'm so behind." And I think, "Step back, Michelle. Is anyone barking for this stuff?" Well, no, but the way I work is usually like, "Come on, let's get this out, move on to the next thing, blah, blah, blah." So I've been kind of, and it's a little bit of both, right? It's like, okay, yeah, I really would like to get this done. Is it a house on fire? I don't know. And it does seem I wouldn't say all my externals, but some of my externals are so like, I'm like, whoa. And I have to fight my first tendency to go, oh my gosh, wait a second. No, we've got plenty of time for that. What's going on? And I just think it's everyone's psyche is in that, well, we're out and about, but you see the Delta variant going like, hey, and we're like, oh no, you don't. We're gonna,
Yeah.
and still trying to be creative and work around those what ifs. And at the same time, let's face it, when things were relatively normal, it's still a challenge not to put yourself into overwhelm. And I know we've talked often on this podcast about the practical tips, outsourcing this, that, and the other. But I think it's important too to just sit with yourself and ask yourself these questions like, am I really missing deadlines? Is this able to move? I mean, sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
Sometimes you do have to just like get it done. Um, or, is it feels like my business is rolling, you know, not going downhill, but rolling along faster than I can keep up with it. Let's
Yeah.
make sure that, okay, well, what's with that? How do we feel about that? Is that where we really want to be heading? How can we kind of corral that and giving yourself permission to, as I like to put it, stare at a wall? Because it's funny, I was
Yeah.
talking with a friend about this and she's in a similar world to ours, that it's not lazy, it's not wasted time to, you got to let your mind wander and not overbook,
And I
even your.
think, yeah. And I think it's really important to understand sort of these layers, right?
Mhm,
Are you depressed?
mhm,
And if you are, then you need to, seek help for that depression. It's not you. You're not broken. There's nothing wrong with needing that help. And,
mhm.
God bless you if you haven't been at least a little depressed, low key depressed throughout this whole entire time period that we've been in. But depression is something, very different than burnout. And so I think it's really important to, ask, family members or people that are around you if they're sensing something, if you're feeling sort of this not having the oomph to do things and you're sensing that you're just in this constant sort of the sun is not shining sort of thing,
Mhm.
because depression is real. It is a clinical illness that can be helped either through talk therapy or through medication if you need it to rebalance your system. So I want to be real about that. Don't try
Yeah.
to put a band-aid on something that is a real medical issue. If it's a medical issue, address that issue. And I
Yeah.
think that one of the keys will be that the depression is maybe not limited to your business. It's just this general, you know, doom and gloom that you're feeling all of the time
Mhm.
about everything. You don't seem to have that get up and go. You don't have that energy. Again, it's the sun's just not shining for you, even when it's,
Mhm.
metaphorically speaking, it's just not shining. So address that.
Mhm.
Business burnout can also feel like a depression about your business. If you're
Mhm.
dreading every single day of the week and you're just not finding the joy, then I think it's important to, take a step back and say, okay, am I burnt out on the type of work that I'm doing? Am I burnt out on the types of clients that I'm serving? Am I burnt out because I haven't taken any time off? And for many of us, that really may be the key. I haven't been getting as much time off in the past few months. And honestly, I haven't had a real vacation in a while
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
I'm not personally, that just me, I'm not, every time I think that I'm going to get comfortable traveling, some other variant pops out of the woodwork. And then I talk to somebody in my close circle who has gotten COVID.
Yeah.
And some have been fully, the people that I'm talking to now that have COVID have been fully vaccinated and they got COVID, and some got really sick. And I feel that pressure personally of
Mhm.
being, somebody that is on my own, and
Mhm.
I just can't afford to get sick. Like,
Right.
it's all on me. So,
Yeah.
and who
Yeah.
wants to be sick, even if it feels like a bad
Right.
case of the flu? Nobody has time for that. But
Right.
anyway, so the burnout might be a case of just needing to find a way to vacation. And that really may mean making a hard decision, even if it costs you money in the short term, of letting your clients know that you need to take a step away for maybe a week. Like, I need to step away for a week.
Mhm.
I'm really sorry, but I'm at a point where I'm not serving you and I've got to take a break. If you are worried about trying to keep business going, reach out to the solo community, reach out to other colleagues if you're not a solo PR pro, and see if somebody can keep things moving so that you can take some time off. Just keep it moving. They don't have to
Mhm.
advance the business, they don't have to, but somebody that can just kind of keep the task in the air so that you could take a step away.
Mhm.
If it's not that, maybe you just need a little, I heard this, I'm going to have to look up her name, but there's a woman on CBS This Morning talking about fun intervention. And I do believe that she has a
Ooh.
podcast, which we will look up. I love the word because she talked about adults not knowing how to have fun. And
Oh
I
my
was like,
gosh. Isn't
yeah,
that the truth?
can you clue us in on that? Because I don't remember how to do that. And basically the part that I heard, and I'm doing a million things, so I wasn't paying that close attention, but I did, I remember her face and I remember the fun intervention part is, as adults, learning to do things that just make us smile, like where your
Mhm.
face hurts from smiling so much. And that means doing new things. So maybe you can't go on an international trip right now. Maybe you can't go visit your family. Maybe that's just not possible. But can you do something fun in your days that re-energizes you? Can
Yeah.
you go outside and swing on a swing at your local park, or jump rope outside, or or try something new that you just haven't done before? Take a painting class, or take a dance class. Just do something that is pure fun and has nothing to do with work.
Yeah. Yeah. I growing up and through my high school and college years, like to me, comedy, laughing was a priority. And
Yeah.
as with anything, you get away from these things because you're like, oh, I can tough it out. I can do it. I just have all these things to do. Dishes, laundry, da, 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 da. And then you sit and you're like, oh my God, I haven't laughed in a while. So even if you're kind of nervous about doing something in a group setting, at this point, Netflix has a ton of comedy. And hey, I'm not gonna lie, I have air quotes, traveled via Jerry Seinfeld's Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. You visit a different little diner and you feel like you're out having coffee with Jerry and his little buddy, his comedian friend for like 20 minutes. So
Yeah.
take a coffee break there. Or I am such an evangelist for this show. It's called Somebody Feed Phil. It's the co-creator. He's the co-creator of Everyone Loves Raymond, so he's funny. And I liken it too. If you like Anthony Bourdain, you'll love Phil. They're like total polar opposites as far as personality and vibe. But he travels the world when we could still do that and eats things. And he has such a joy about it, but it's got heart too. So you'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll visit Venice all from your living room.
I would even say that those things are always great to build into your normal routine. But if you are
Yeah.
burnt out, please get out of your house and your office. Just go.
Mhm.
And if it means
Yeah.
that you got to throw those kids in the car, strap them into their car seats and their seatbelts, and
Yeah.
just take a long drive and commit
Yes.
to being silly and having a good time, do what you
Yeah.
got to do,
Yeah.
because we all kind of need to do that, right?
We
Just
do.
run away from your responsibilities. The dishes will get washed, the house will get cleaned, the work will get done. But
Yeah.
if you're burned out, you need to fix it, because it's not going to fix itself and you can't work through it,
Right.
unfortunately.
Right.
Now,
Right.
I also want to be very honest that burnout could also be a sign that you're kind of over your business. And that is not a thing that is uncommon. It happens. And many people have paved the way for you. There are many people that have pivoted their business, or they
Yeah.
pivoted back into a corporate role.
Yeah.
So we want to give you the permission today, not that you need it, but sometimes it helps to have somebody
Mhm.
else say, hey, it's okay to do that. So
Yeah.
let us tell you today, it's okay to do that. If you want to
Totally.
pivot your business completely to something different,
Do
make
it.
a plan, because guess what? Making that plan is already going to energize you, because now you've got a goal in mind. Make a plan. Where do you want
Yeah.
to pivot to? Is it something completely different than PR and communications? Okay, make a step-by-step plan of how you're going to get there and a
Yeah.
timeline, and start to work on that and start to pivot away from the thing that's not making you happy,
Yeah.
because you're not going to be of service to anybody by just showing up and being miserable, even if
Yeah.
you're putting a happy face on it. So if it's really like at a point where it's like, I just don't enjoy this anymore. I can't, it's making me nauseous, then you need to fix that. And
Yeah.
it's okay. And even if you decide, I just want a job, I want to walk away from this, you can walk away. And guess what? A couple of years later, if you want to walk back in, you can do that too.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
really can. It's not like
I,
the old days where companies won't take you because you've been a solo, and that you can't ever go back to be. Yes, you can. You
yeah.
can move in and out of being a business owner. So, I mean, take a little bit of time and really start to reflect on, is this just a temporary burnout because of the times that we live in, and I just need to get out of this environment and do
Mhm.
something, anything? Or is it a little bit deeper and it's something that I need to address and have a plan to fix?
Yeah. Yeah. And let's be honest. If you're not feeling even the slightest bit of a funk during this era we're living in,
Yeah.
it's perfectly normal. And, I can attest to the pivot. We've seen many of our fellow solos do that. They've moved in and out of corporate jobs and, it's wonderful. It's funny. I just tripped over this today good timing. Marie Forleo has a little micro series within her podcast called A Love Letter to Creatives. They are little 10-minute, boosts. And I love her intro saying, it's basically that, you have been gifted with certain gifts and that, your purpose is to share your gifts. So whatever that looks like for you in any given time, pursue it. So that could mean having your own business. That could be going back in-house or
Yeah.
agency. Or maybe, like you say, pivoting to something completely different. Maybe you decide, I think I'm going to try teaching or, and we know, of course, we know, especially you and I as single women, there are certain barriers to that. It's like, yeah, I can't just stop this and be like, hey, I'm just gonna,
I, you know,
you can, it's doable. It might not be
I
doable
did
as
it
fast as you
a
want it.
couple of times in my business,
Yeah.
to be honest. And
Yeah.
I didn't even think of it as a pivot. I
Okay.
just, because we weren't talking about pivoting at that time. It's like, if there's not a word for it, then
I'm just
it's not
doing
a
it.
big thing. But, initially I started out because I came from a marketing background and
Yeah.
I started my business wanting to divorce marketing and just write because that was my passion, my
Yeah.
lifelong passion. And I wanted to focus on that. I
Yeah.
pivoted from that pretty quickly when I realized that people needed marketing help. And then I pivoted from marketing to PR. And somewhere in between that, I also had grown a really healthy resume writing division of my company where I worked with corporate executives on not only, on career marketing, not just writing a resume, but actually working through helping them to secure positions. And I had a really high success rate. I loved working with the people,
Yeah.
but there got to a point where I was burned out on it. And I'm like, I
Yeah.
can't do this anymore. So I
Yeah.
shuttered that part of my business and referred everybody to someone else that I knew in the industry that was far smarter than me and
Yeah.
focused in on, my business. So I've made a couple pivots
Yeah.
too. And
Yeah.
I have been single the whole time that I started my business. And so it can feel scary
Mhm.
it can feel scary to let go a piece of income. It can feel scary to step into a territory that maybe you don't feel as experienced in. Stepping into PR was a big step for me, but it turned out to be the right move.
Yeah.
So,
And,
but
and
be happy.
yeah,
Like,
that's the thing. I mean, if you're feeling led in a certain direction, don't doubt it because it's
yeah,
going to be far worse if you
yeah,
deny it. You're just going to
yeah,
be miserable and mired until, and not to get, I get woo here all the time, until you make that change that is meant to happen for you.
yeah,
So that can definitely be part of any of the burnout you're feeling. And, it's funny. At the onset of the pandemic, I'm like, is this where I just like bag it all and become a therapist? But anyway, um, because that was one of my career things. I'm like, maybe, but anyway,
the
um,
whole pandemic thing has us all
yeah,
rethinking everything.
I know. My actual point, I always might eventually get to a point, but no, I was working with someone on some things, seeing some therapy, and she had mentioned to me because sometimes there's certain times of the year and you might not catch it. So if this is you, hopefully this will help you. Sometimes you just kind of feel like you say, low grade depression, and often when it hits, I can sense it. Like in my brain, I'm like, well, there's no reason I should feel this way. I don't want to feel this way. But your muscle memory in your body, and it could be when like something really sad happened or traumatic happened, the
Yeah.
triggers of that time of year. And that really helped me kind of at least see it for what it was,
Hmm.
know what it was, and know, okay, so the next few weeks I'm just going to have to ride this out because I know what it is, I think, and it'll pass. This too shall pass. So, if that pings with anybody out there,
Yeah.
know that it's, normal and yeah,
Yeah. And that, I love that you said that because, we think
Mhm.
about like people who have seasonal affective disorder. And so
Right.
winter is like kind of their time of the blues. And so we're not talking about clinical depression, we're talking
Yeah.
about more of the blues. But you're right. There are certain events that have happened
Mhm.
in our lives. And even if we're not really focused on it, it can
Right.
creep up on you and you can be feeling blue and you're like, what is going on? And
Yeah.
then you remember like, oh,
Yeah.
And it's that. So we
Yeah.
don't want you to live there, but we do
No.
want you
No.
to feel supported if that's
Yeah.
happening. If it's
Yeah.
and, as Michelle said, during this time period, and I'm so thankful that there are so many public conversations about mental health because we're whole people.
Yeah.
We don't just have, we're not just workers, we're not just business owners. Our brains, our mental health is a part of who we are as human beings. And there's no shame in
Yeah.
treating mental health just as you treat your physical health.
Right.
If you break something, you're going to go to a doctor. If something's off, whether it's your mind or your body, get it checked out, get help, get support. And even if it's just burnout, I also want to say that while we hopefully have shared something for you today to think about and reflect on, don't be afraid to turn to an expert to help work through that as well. It doesn't
Right.
need to be a therapist. There are business coaches that kind of specialize in helping you to design that next chapter or moving you forward. Maybe there's something, having that outside perspective always helps from somebody who's an expert in that particular field, because they can see things that you are staring you in the face, but you're missing. So they can help you
Yeah.
unlock those insights for yourself. So a business coach, if it's something, really clinical, please do, see a therapist. If it's just a general feeling of the blues, there's even help for that. Even if you turn to some of the apps. I think it was last
Headspace.
year, I used the Get Happy app
Yeah.
because I was having a blue period and that worked well for me. And I'm not an influencer or spokesperson for the brand because there's so many options out there. There's Talkspace, there's lots of options, but
Right.
Get Happy worked for me. I mean, try a couple out. I know a lot of people use Calm. So
Mhm.
if it's the blues, there's, take some action on that too. But the one thing that we want to encourage you is don't feel like you are need to be ashamed of how you're feeling. Don't beat
Right.
yourself up if you're just not feeling your business right now.
Yeah.
It's okay. And
And
please get help.
yeah, and don't feel like, that you have to muscle through it. If you want to take a week off, just do it. Guess what? Your clients take vacations. Even if it's a staycation, they take time off. And,
Yeah.
and I think it's part of the reason why people in our business tend to get burnout more is we feel like, well, we have to be ahead of the game in every respect. We have to
Huh.
know what's coming. We have to
Yeah.
know who's there. Oh no, they're not there anymore. Well, this is happening. Oh, that new tool and that new feature. And, you know, yeah, it's good to have an idea of that, but I think we need to,
Yeah.
give ourselves a little bit of a break and be kind to ourselves that, because we've all been in this, most of us long enough to know that you'll have what you need when you need it.
Yeah.
And I know that's trust me, that's so easy to say because I can
But
just
it's true.
head game
It's
myself
so
with the
true.
best of them. And sometimes, and I think we touched on this within this episode, is sometimes if you're really hitting a wall, whether it's the niche of your business or a tactic, maybe you're not supposed to go down that road anymore. To
Yeah.
just kind of go to your favorite hangout, your favorite coffee shop, or the favorite corner of your house, or, you know, bench in a
Get out of the
park.
house.
Get out
No,
of the I know.
get out of
Sorry,
your house.
it's
We've
one
all
of the most.
I mean, as lovely as your houses are,
No, it's one
get
of my other
out of
things.
your
Like, you
house.
need to get out or
I'm going to
take a
push
long
you to get
drive.
only
I'm
because we
loving.
spend so much time in that environment. And I think
Yeah,
a break with your normal environment is critical
it's
to
true.
kind of beating the burnout. It is crucial. So
It
please
is
leave your
true.
house. Even
Yeah.
if you just go drive your car,
Hey.
to a different part of your town and
Yep.
sit in it and enjoy a drink. I've done that. I've gone,
Yep.
I drove, I popped my fur baby in the car and we drove like 30 minutes to a lovely dog park that is like Disneyland for her. And then we drove another 30 minutes for me to get a vegan milkshake. And you know what? We pulled up into
Yum.
a quiet parking lot because there was no dine-in at that time.
Ah,
And I had that milkshake and I enjoyed every single sip of it.
oh, that
Every
sounds
down to the
so.
toasted vegan marshmallows because it was a s'mores milkshake.
Oh my
So,
god.
and you know what? It made me happy
Yeah.
because we did
Yeah.
something completely outside of our
Yeah.
routine.
Yeah.
And it wasn't necessarily the milkshake. It was just I don't
The
drink
act.
milkshakes normally, not something that's daily. I don't normally go to that restaurant because
Right.
it's far and I don't like to drive for food. Just shake up yourself. Like sometimes you just need to like, ugh, get out of your rut.
Uh-huh. Yep. So if we leave you with nothing else, get out of your rut, but be kind to the rut. Be kind to yourself in the rut.
Yeah. Be
And we
kind
are
to yourself.
here. That's right. And we are here for you as well. Hit up Solo PR Pro, and there's lots of great resources as well. So you are not alone,
Yeah.
especially right now because we are in your ears. Anyway, all right, I'll stop being silly. But we do value you spending time with us, and we hope that this episode has been worthy of that time. And until next time, thanks for listening to That Solo Life.